always keeping us on our toes. With that big name change, a lot of people out there may have noticed that there's also been some other major changes. It was a very large algorithm update that got rolled out, and it continued through May of this year with some different updates and changes. So a lot of people out there noticed droppings in rankings, potentially, obviously Maps rankings. So for those of you who don't know, your Google Business Profile is directly tied to your Maps rankings, which is a super important part of your digital marketing strategy. You need to be listed and visible in those areas, especially if you're a service-based company like the restoration industry is. So if you want to be found on local search, Maps is a great way to do it. And Google offers a free service or a free channel called Google Business Profile. So it goes without saying, you should have one. If you don't, you're probably jumping ahead listening to this episode. You need to go back and go ahead and set that up. I have a ton of information on my YouTube channel, whether it's Ironclad Restoration Marketing's YouTube channel or the Restoration Rundown's YouTube, where we show you how to set it up, why you need one, and everything in between. So I'm speaking to you guys out there that had and saw some big changes with your Google Business Profile outside of just the name. You might have dropped in rankings, like I mentioned before, but the big one that's been coming up lately is people's profiles are just getting suspended. Now, they're also losing a lot of reviews, and we'll save that for another day and what you can do with it, because we're still trying to figure out what exactly is going on and what Google's wanting to do. So my team is feverishly looking into this issue like we do every time an algorithm update happens. So if your Google Business Profile has been suspended, it is a pain in the butt to get it back verified. So, hopefully you're putting in the work to these profiles, and that's what makes these suspensions so frustrating, because a lot of times what we're finding is they're getting suspended for no reason. So to back up a little bit, what's happening is Google is relying a little bit more on their AI to crawl these Google Business Profile pages. And what they're doing, and it's very well intended, is they're trying to get rid of the spammy companies or the spammy Google Business Profiles that black hat SEO companies or even guys that are in the industry are using to kind of game the system a little bit. And as we know, every time Google rolls out an algorithm update, we kind of wipe the slate clean. It's almost like getting dunked underwater, right? You get down and you're drowning, you're trying to breathe, and then at some point you come to the top if you're doing things the right way and following Google's best practices. So what do you do when your profile gets suspended? Well, a lot of guys out there and people that are in the industry, in the service-based industry, you just don't have time to deal with it. So a lot of times they just forget about it, right? They already don't have some sort of a review building strategy. They're not really concentrating on their digital marketing. So they don't really care. They just let it go to suspension. They don't want to deal with it. They think it's going to be an insurmountable amount of work to be able to get it taken care of. And it's not. The big thing is it does take some time. So there's a few reasons that your profile may have been suspended, right? So we'll talk about that first. One, the blatant one is you are trying to game the system somehow. You are not following Google's best practices, right? You are not listing your services properly. You don't have a verified account. You're maybe using a UPS address. You're using spam. You are using the posting features to put spammy messages up. You're messaging people and doing spam stuff. Those are right out the gate. I mean, those are very straightforward reasons to get suspended, and you should, right? If you're not doing the right thing. But a lot of times you're getting suspended and you have no idea. You have your correct services, you have your correct service address, you have your correct service area. You're doing everything by the book, and lo and behold, you wake up one day and you get that dreaded suspension notice. So before I walk you through how to get yourself unsuspended, we're going to talk about those of you out there that got suspended and you have no idea what happened. So the thing with Google algorithm updates is, sometimes they're very ambiguous. Okay. At the end of the day, no matter what they're trying to accomplish with their algorithm updates, really what they're trying to do is make sure that you, as somebody who's using their platform, whether it's organic search, paid ads, or your Google Business Profile for Maps, are following their best practices and delivering the most relevant, pertinent results to their user base to be able to connect your business with your target client. Okay. But it's not a perfect system. So what they're doing is their AI is crawling this, like I mentioned before. Some things are going to throw red flags and they're just going to suspend your profile, right? And there's a couple different types of suspensions. There's a soft suspension and a hard suspension. Soft one is you may have done something that was wrong. Maybe you had a city in your name, in your profile name or something like that. Or your profile name didn't match what's in your business records and they flagged the account. Those seem to be a little bit more simple. And then there's the hard suspensions, which is like, sometimes they've warned you a couple times about something and you didn't listen, and now your profile is wiped out. And a lot of times it's really hard to climb yourself out of that hole if you can at all. So a lot of times what we're seeing is the biggest thing that we see, right? We're trying to kind of pull this puzzle apart and figure out, my teams anyways, whenever these algorithm updates happen, try to figure out what is causing the issue, because they don't put it out there in black and white. They hand you their best practices. The best you can do is go through step by step, make sure your profile matches what they're looking for. There's a little bit of gray area on some things, especially to the service-based industries, but for the most part, they lay it out there, and then it's a waiting game. So what we're finding is that for service-based companies like the restoration industry, when you are providing home services at somebody's house and you are not taking clients into your office, Google does not want to have your address listed in your profile. So if you find yourself suspended and you are a restoration company, and that may be the case, where you have your address in there, you can clear your address and set a service area. Now, the gray area, what we're finding is sometimes you do serve clients in your location, right? So it's kind of a catch-22. But what you have to do in the appeal process should make some sense for this a little bit more as I walk you through that, to show you what you need to do to be able to get your profile unsuspended, whatever the reason may be. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to notice on your profile is that you were suspended. There's going to be a little button on your profile that says learn more. It's going to take you over to the support page for Google. And that's when you start the appeal process. So it's a very straightforward form you fill out. And the first thing you're going to want to do, and they walk you through it, is checking their best practices and their guidelines. So you just take a look at their guidelines, make sure you have a service area set that's legitimate to your business. Make sure your name, your address, and your phone number all match what's on your business license, right? If you're a restoration company in Texas, make sure you don't have a city indicator in your business name. Just put your name, your business name up there. I mean, follow it to the T, and do it right by the book, right? That's the first step. If you're there, what I suggest to do, especially if you're a service-based company, is go into the area that shows your address and clear the address. Then the next step is you're going to be able to appeal your suspension with Google. What we like to do for our clients is we have our clients provide a few things. One, if you do have a location where people can come, because face it, some people like to do business face-to-face. They want to come to your office, and most of you guys out there have offices. For those of you guys that just have a house, then just clear your address. You don't technically have people ever coming to your house. The next thing you're going to do, what we like to do is we like to aggregate some proof, right? So if you do have an office, you've spent money on vinyl, you've spent money on the lease and all these different things. So what we do is Google's going to require, and they sometimes ask for it and sometimes don't, a picture of your storefront right up at your door that shows your address, your logo, your business name, your phone number, all the same stuff that's on your Google business profile. Now, the next thing we do is we take a step out to the street. We take a picture of your business, your storefront, from a street level view, showing the adjacent different businesses and addresses that are there. If you do have some signage out front, take a picture of that. Get a picture of one of your work vehicles if it's wrapped and has your address and your logo and all that information on it. And in some circumstances, we've even had to provide a lease agreement. Now, that may be overkill. I don't care, because the appeal process takes so long sometimes that I'd rather just dump as much information out there as possible to get the suspension lifted. And we have 100% success rate with this method. So it's worked 10 out of 10 times for us when we did have clients that got suspended for seemingly no reason. So once you get all that information together, you can zip it up into a file, and they're going to ask you some basic questions: what your name is, what the address of your location is. They're going to ask you for a link to your business profile ID, and that's simple. When you're in your dashboard, copy and paste the URL that's in your dashboard, throw it up onto their little questionnaire that they're asking, and they're going to ask for some other basic information. And then there's going to be an area where you can upload photos or proof or media or whatever the case may be. Go ahead and you upload that zip file there. Sometimes they'll only allow one photo, so just pick front of your door first, with the address like I told you to take, and submit it. Within some amount of time, you're going to get a response. It's an autoresponder, and it's basically going to say, here's your case ID. We received your information. Here's some more links for some more info to try to figure out what's going on. And then you can reply to that email. So what I like to do is reply to that email right away. Write a brief description of your issue. Hey, this is so-and-so from so-and-so restoration. We rely heavily on our Google business profile to get leads for our business. We've followed the guidelines. We've checked the checklist. We submitted proof of the front of our building. And then I would attach those files again. Photo of the front of the building, photo of the front of the building from the street, picture of the truck, picture of a lease agreement, insurance, whatever shows your business name and an address, and reply to that email and then set back. This is the hardest part about this, in my opinion, because I'm pretty impatient. It takes some time to get this stuff managed, right? You just imagine how many Google business profiles are out there and how many are getting suspended and how many people are just bombarding Google with this information. So sit back and wait. Usually it takes about the fastest I've ever had a response was 4 days, maybe. The longest was been almost 2 weeks. Typically with that method, filling out the information properly. Well, step one is make sure that you're following their guidelines. But after you ensure that, which I'm sure everybody listening to this is following it to the T. If you have a marketing agency managing your Google business profile, they should know how to do this. But sometimes you got to put on the work gloves and do this stuff yourself. But you can at least dictate this information to them or send them over to the podcast and I'll teach them if they listen to it. So once you send all that information in, you're going to get a response from Google at some point. I say, telling you that, hey, your suspension's been lifted most of the time. Now, we've gotten responses where that said, you're still falling under something you're doing is wrong. You're not sticking with our guidelines. And we'd have to go through this process 2 times before we got the suspension lifted, which took almost a month. And it's some follow-up. A couple things you don't want to do. If you're impatient like me, do not submit another inquiry, right? You're just clogging the pipeline even more. The best thing I can say is respond to the initial email that they send you verifying that they received your request to lift the suspension, and respond to that and just say, following up on case number, they give you a case ID. We're still here. We've done everything you've said. We've submitted pictures. Is there anything else we can do? You send it out. I found that gets a little bit better of a response. If you submit a duplicate inquiry, you're going to clog the wheel and it's going to take even longer. Okay. Now, another big thing that we've seen, and this goes back to the address. Remember, they're trying to, the algorithm is making people who serve business or serve customers not in their location as a service-based industry to clear their address because they just want to set a service area. But to verify your account initially, so if don't have a Google business profile, you're a new company, and this has been happening a lot more frequently, where we set up a new Google business profile, we request a verification postcard. So we have to set an address to do that. We get the verification postcard, we put the verification code in, and it instantly suspends the profile. That's been happening quite a bit. So if you find yourself in that situation, it's the same exact protocol. Clear your address, set your service area, load your profile with pictures, load your profile with this picture of your storefront, all the pictures that we told you to take before, not your lease agreement or anything like that. Obviously, you don't want any legal documents on your Google business profile. Fill out the information, be very accurate with your services, and then go through that same appeal process. Now, the pain part of that is now this sometimes will take about a month. Okay. So you set up your account, it takes a couple days, you get everything going, wait 4 or 5 days for your postcard to come in. Boom, you get suspended. So now you're a week in. You aggregate all this stuff. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out one of these suspension forms. You send it out, you wait 2 weeks, you finally get a response. They've lifted your suspension, but guess what? They want you to verify your account again. So then you have to go through the verification process where you verify your business. They send you a postcard and you enter it in. And again, we have 100% success rate with this method that I told you. You get your profile going, start doing your work. But it sets you back about a month. So when you do get these suspensions lifted, make sure that you go through your posting, you're using the profile as much as possible. If you're one of those people that cleared your address and just set a service area, if you see that you're still dropping in rankings, like if you're tracking that kind of stuff, I would just say, wait about a week and a half, let your profile warm up a little bit, go ahead and put your address back in there. We've done that multiple times, have not had a suspension from there, from doing that. especially if you're legit, especially if you have photos of your storefront on your profile and things like that. You're going to be able to be fine because technically that falls within their guidelines. I just think it's happening more. It happened a lot in the beginning of the year, but it's happening more to new profiles now where they're kind of holding you to that address and are really making you jump through hoops to prove it. We've seen situations where they've made you take a video driving by. But the reason is, again, there's a lot of people out there that take advantage and they gain the system and they do things like that. And if you are, it's frustrating as it may be, but if you're a legitimate business, you should be happy that Google's going through and doing this type of stuff because it weeds out all those people that are siphoning off the industry. And I think it's a good thing. So if your profile's been suspended, you've been doing the right thing, follow those steps, you will get unsuspended. Make sure that you have everything following our guidelines. And if you have any questions at all, check out Ironclad Restoration Marketing's YouTube page. Check out our Instagram. I make videos all the time teaching you how to lift suspensions. If you don't know how to set up a Google business profile, it's very straightforward. Don't be afraid to get in there and get that thing set up because it's such a powerful tool for your business to drive leads, to rank in the map section. You kind of need it. Now with the big algorithm update, it's directly tied to your organic traffic to your website. So if you're doing SEO and you're not doing Google Business Profile Management, you're really missing out on a big opportunity and you're like watering down the gas of your marketing success. Anyways, if you have any questions, drop a comment on our YouTube page, message me on Instagram, message me on LinkedIn, message me anywhere. I'm everywhere. I'm omnipresent. I'm Ben. That's it for today. Hopefully you can get those suspensions lifted. If you have any other issues, give us a call at Ironclad Restoration Marketing. Until next time,